Welcome back to Koine Corner. Over the last several weeks, we have been looking at the three parable cycle in Luke chapter 15 of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the prodigal son. And today we are at the end of the prodigal son, where we're looking at the older brother's experience in the parable. So just a quick recap of the prodigal son. The younger son comes to dad. Dad, give me whatever would fall to me when you're gone. He takes all the wealth that he receives and he leaves for a distant land. He goes there and squanders his wealth. Then a famine strikes and he comes to his senses and he comes home to look for a job as a hired hand, as a day laborer. Make me a mistheos so that I can not starve to death. But his dad falls on his neck and kisses him and robes him in the best robe and puts a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet and tells the servants to kill the fatted calf, make a feast. We're going to celebrate this son of mine who was dead, lives again. He was lost and he has been found. Now we come to the older brother, the older son, the heir to this father, and his experience within the parable. So we had said in previous episodes that the younger son represents the tax collectors and sinners, because remember, the chapter starts with all the tax collectors and the sinners were coming to hear him, but the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling, saying, this man receives sinners and he even eats with them. And that the parables, the three parables, are in response to that grumbling. So we saw that the younger son is represents the tax collectors and the sinners. The father is represented by Jesus, and the older son, the heir, represents the Pharisees and the scribes. Let us dive in Luke 15, 25 through 27, and this is from the ESV. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing, and he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has received him back safe and sound. So notice that the older son, the heir, is acting like an outsider, not an insider. There's a party going on at his home where he lives. And instead of going in to the party in his own home where he lives, he talks to one of the little kids that's outside. And the little kid tells him, well, your brother has come. And the great little part of this is an irregular perfect verb. It's ak, a form of erchomai. Your brother has come and is still here. It's like saying, your brother is home. He came home and he's staying here. Not only that, but we're told that he's safe and sound. He's in good health. Let's go on to verse 28, and this is my translation. But he was angry and was unwilling to enter, and after coming out, his father was pleading with him. I want you to note the dynamic here. When the younger son was coming home to plead for a job as a day laborer, we're told that while he was still a far way off at a great distance, his father saw him and ran to him, right? And the only way that he could see him while he was at a great distance is if he was out there looking for him. He wanted to see his son again. And we said last time that in a patriarchal society, sons go to fathers. Fathers don't go to sons. But we saw the dad hike up his robes and run to his son. He didn't care about propriety. He didn't care about the hierarchy. He cared about his son. And here, when his older son won't come into the house, he does it again. He takes the lead and goes out to talk to his older son. Not just to talk to him, he goes out and pleads with him to get him to come in and participate in the celebration. He'd rather have his sons than to have his image. He cares more about the relationship with them than he cares about the perceived propriety of whether they should come to him or he should go to them. Fantastic. Let's go on to 29. And answering, he said to his father, look how many years I have slaved for you and never transgressed your commandment. And you have never given me a goat so that I might feast with my friends. Let's look at this in two parts. Iduto sauta ete duluo soi. Okay, look at how many years I have slaved for you. Doluo soi. I have slaved for you. I am a slave to you. Crazy stuff. The word comes from the noun doulos, indentured servant or slave. And it's critically important for us to see the way the heir, the older son, sees his relationship to his father. He doesn't see himself as a huios, as a son. He doesn't even see himself as a misthios, an employee, a day laborer, like the younger son wants to be. He sees himself as a doulos. My life here with you has been a life of slavery. Not just slavery, but look at what he says in the second part. Kai udepote entole su parelthon. And I've never transgressed any of your commandment. Anything you've said, I've obeyed. I have been a meticulous follower of your rule as a slave. This is profound stuff. The one son sees himself as not a son and wants to leave town and go live in a different country in a different life. The other son, who never leaves, doesn't see himself as a son. He sees himself as a slave. It's sad. Think about this, though. The Pharisees and the scribes versus the tax collectors and the sinners. Which of the two see themselves as meticulous commandment keepers to the point of being indentured servants? It's surely not the tax collectors and the sinners. They're out there doing their own thing. They're doing what they want. But the Pharisees and the scribes are bitter and angry, and they're not happy to see the tax collectors and the sinners coming to Jesus, because after all, they've been meticulous commandment keepers, and Jesus isn't even giving them a goat, no less the fatted calf. Pretty wild. Not even a goat for me, he says. Let's go to verse 30. But when this son of yours, not this brother of mine, when this son of yours, the one who consumed your livelihood with harlots came, you killed the fattened calf for him. He says, I'm a slave, but the one who told you to drop dead and then went and squandered your livelihood comes. He gets the fatted calf. Not a goat. I'm only looking for a stinking goat. He gets the fattened calf. Let's take a look at it in Koine. Ho huios su hutos, this son of yours. Very clearly, this son su of you, your son, not my brother. I've got no relationship to this dirtbag. When this son of yours comes, the one who told you to drop dead, you throw him a party. But look at how else he describes him. Here's a great little Koine thing. This son of yours, ho kataphagon, in simple apposition, we have an articular participle. Ho kataphagon su ton bion, the one who consumed down, the one who ate down your livelihood. Remember, 2 episodes back, the younger son asked for the estate, his portion of the estate, but the father, we're told, divided between both sons ton bion, the livelihood, everything that makes this farm work. And now the older son says, when this son of yours, the one who ate down ton bion, your livelihood, everything that you had, everything that makes our life work, and how did he do it? Metapornon, with harlots, with whores. When that son came back, what did you do? You killed the fattened calf. You throw him a feast. But the son who never left doesn't even get a stinking goat. So, amazing stuff. This word, kataphagon. Imagine if you have like a sack of lentils that's got to last you through the winter. And every time you go in and take some out, it's getting a little bit lower. You're literally eating down your livelihood. The food that we've got to make it through the winter, every time we go to this sack, we're eating it down. And the older son says, this son of yours, the one who consumed, who ate down your livelihood with harlots or whores, when he shows up, you throw a feast. Look what happened in the older son's heart. How does he know who he ate down the livelihood with? This was in a distant land. There's no correspondence. There's no information coming and going. When you're bitter, when you see your life as slavery, when your relationship is about meticulous commandment keeping, you go to ad hominem attack. You go to slander. This dirtbag son of yours who ate up your livelihood with whores comes and you throw him a party. How disgusting. Let's go on to 31 and 32. But he said to him, child, you are always with me, and all my things are yours. But celebrate and be glad he's here, because this brother of yours was dead and began living again, and was lost and has been found. Let's look at it in Koine, this beginning part. Teknon, supantote etemue, child. Look what he calls him. Child. He doesn't call him son, huios, because that's an adult son. He doesn't call him paideia, because that's like an infant. He calls him teknon, my boy, my child. He says, you're my son. You're my boy. And you've always been with me. My child, my son, you're always with me. And then he says, kai panta ta ema sa estin. Everything which is mine is yours. All that I have belongs to you too. The goat that you covet, that you long for, that would be the sign of acceptance, that goat was always yours. Powerful, magnificent stuff. I love the fact that he says to him, child, like a kid. You're sort of acting like a kid. Your younger brother was sort of acting like a kid. You come to me talking about being a slave rather than being the heir, rather than being my grown son, my huios. So I want to acknowledge that. Teknon. This is the same word that the Apostle John uses in his epistles when he talks about beloved children. Teknon. Tekna, little children. It's a term of endearment. It's a way of showing love. Like the father ran and fell on the neck and kissed, kataphilesen, applied love to the younger son. Using this term tekna is like applying love to the older son. Spectacular. He counters this son of yours with this brother of yours. And then he takes the exact same phrasing that he used with the slaves when he told them to prepare the feast, because my son was dead and now he's begun to live again. He was lost and has been found. He uses the exact same phrasing to his older son to make the point here. Your brother, my son, was dead. He was gone. He was out of touch and out of reach. We may never have seen him again, but he's alive again. And he was lost. We knew not what would become of him, but he's been found and he's home again. So we together, all of us, should celebrate. Spectacular. We've come full circle, right? The tax collectors and the sinners representing the sheep that wandered, the coin that was misplaced, which anyone would look for until they were found, and the son that worked a plan to withdraw from the family. We see that they're not just whoremongers who are squandering their inheritance. They're still brethren. When they come back, it's something to rejoice over. It's not something to grumble about. We should celebrate a feast. So, of course, Jesus receives them and even eats with them. They were dead. They were as good as dead. They were lost, but here they are. And he's saying, indirectly through the parable to the Pharisees and the scribes, they're your brethren who were dead. Don't grumble. Don't look at yourselves as pitiable slaves whose lives have been meticulous commandment keeping, hoping that someday you might get a goat. The reward has always been yours. You've always been the insiders. You've always been here. You're techna. You're my children. So the magnificence of the full circle of these three parables as they relate to the context that we get in those first three verses of chapter 15 are blockbuster powerful. It's fantastic stuff. Rarely do we see a parable in the New Testament that has such a direct, applicable connection to its immediate context that prompted the speech. But we certainly see it here, don't we? We certainly see Jesus telling the Pharisees and the scribes, quit your grumbling. You're not slaves. You're not even day laborers. You're huios, you're huioi. You're God's own children. You've always been here. You didn't wander. You weren't misplaced. You didn't work a plan to exit the family. But those who did, when we see them come back, are a cause for great celebration. So sure, I receive them and I even eat with them. Fantastic stuff. I hope that was good for you. On to other things next week. Until next time, Charis Kai Reini Humin, grace and peace to you.